attendees. Hey, everyone. I'm gonna wait a few minutes to just let other people filter in, and we'll start in a couple minutes. All right, everybody, we'll start in a couple minutes, and I just want to remind you all that we'll have a question and answer session at the end of our at the end of this presentation. And if you have questions, feel free to just write them in the chat box or in the question box as we go, and then I'll get to them at the end. All right, guys. Well, we will get to starting. If you have any issues or can't hear me for any reason, just let me know. Yeah, so I'm just gonna try to get rid of this thing up here. Well, oops. All right, guys. Well, my name is Nicole. I am a registered dietitian, diabetes educator, and also a registered yoga teacher. And I work for RPM Logix. RPM Logix partners with your physician to provide concierge services to you. So our mission is to educate and coach and motivate all of our clients to live healthier lives. And you guys are all members of this program, so that gives you access to nurses, dietitians, diabetes educators. So you always should let us know how we can support you in your goals. We are here for you. So this webinar will be about 30 minutes, and then after that, we'll have time for questions and answers. And all of your participation is private. So if you have a question, just please place it in the Q&A button on your Zoom controls. And then it will just send a message just to me. It won't be public, and then I can address it. Awesome. So it looks like we have about 10 participants. Thank you all for coming. If you missed that, I'm Nicole, dietitian, and diabetes educator, yoga teacher. So I wanted to present a webinar on food psychology today. So I want to dive in a little bit to how our mindset actually affects our eating behaviors. So we will go ahead and do that. I just wonder if I can get rid of this control up top. Oh well. Okay. So oftentimes I hear my clients say things like, I know what I need to do to eat healthy, to be healthy, but I can't seem to do it. Or it's just there's barriers in the way that make it really hard to get from this thought process of like, I know I should, but why am I not doing it? And some of the common barriers that we see are sweets and carbs. They just taste better than eating vegetables all day. I totally get that. They do. There's no lie about that. And sometimes it feels too expensive to eat healthy or to buy, certain types of foods at the store. It's hard to find the time to prepare. That's a huge barrier for a lot of people. Many of us work full time, or we have kids or grandkids that we're taking care of and helping out with. Another one I hear about a lot is people just say DoorDash, takeout. It's very convenient. If we don't have the time, we still need to eat. So it's really common to go to a local restaurant, fast food, use Uber Eats or DoorDash. Very, very common. There's no doubt that that's more convenient than cooking yourself. And then some people just don't feel like they're a good cook. So maybe going back to that first bullet, some kinds of like junk food or restaurant food, fast food just tastes better than what I'm able to cook. And that makes total sense. I don't expect my patients to eat things that don't taste good. So yeah, just those are a few barriers, and feel free to write in the chat if you feel like you have something to add to that. It's always really interesting to hear what other people have to say. And another thing too is I'll be hosting our healthy hour next week on Wednesday or on Tuesday, I think. You'll get an email about it, and we can discuss some of these topics there as well. So just some fun pictures. Obviously, we know prices right now at the grocery store are really expensive since the last few years, since the pandemic, and a lot of stuff has been changing in society. So yeah, it's tough. So first of all, let's see if I can get rid of this. Oh, there we go. Yay. First of all, we want to eat food that tastes good. A lot of times when we start diets, they recommend things like boiled eggs, baked chicken, steamed veggies. Those don't really sound appetizing to a lot of people. And our natural human instincts actually flavor sweet, salty, or starchy food over all else. And that's because of this up here. The brain has evolved to really want to eat those types of foods. So we are hardwired to seek out quick energy in case there's a famine or we need extra energy to run from a burning building or a tiger. So these instincts to crave sugary food, fast energy food, those are from a long, long time ago, from when humans, didn't live in the modern world. Our bodies and our brains haven't adapted as fast as modern society has. So there's some really interesting evolutionary reasons why we prefer sugar and starch over broccoli. So healthy eating does not have to sacrifice deliciousness. So we have to figure out how we can find that balance, how we can make healthy food taste good. So one of my tips would be try to find that balance. You don't have to give up your favorite foods to eat healthy. And this helps our mindset a lot. Like when we have the mindset of, wait, I can actually eat pizza, I can eat pasta, I can eat bagels. My question to my patients is, how can we enhance the nutrition in our favorite foods? So this little visual up here shows some different examples. So pizza, adding, I always recommend to my clients to make sure that you have protein. So maybe there's pepperoni on your pizza, maybe you get like chicken or something on your pizza or have it on the side. And then make sure you order a salad or some sort of vegetable with your pizza to balance it out. We want to make sure that we've always got these four components in each of our meals. So pasta is a carb, sure, that's okay. How can we add protein, fiber, and some healthy fats to our pasta? This is a great example. There's broccoli, chicken in there, and the same thing. Oatmeal obviously is a really healthy breakfast, making sure we have those components. Here's some examples of making bagels really nutritious. We could do avocado, we could put some eggs on our bagel, cream cheese and strawberries, lots of different ways. Usually I recommend finding like low salt sauces, flavorings. Vinegar, lemon juice, cooking wine are really good at enhancing flavor. So yeah, you don't have to give up your favorite foods. A little bit of cooking advice can go a long way. I love Trader Joe's for their sauces and their flavorings. Okay. So, and then another problem that we see a lot is this issue with the all or nothing mentality. My patients say sometimes, I tried exercising, but I didn't lose weight, so I stopped. Or I tried eating healthy, but I didn't lose weight, so I stopped. That is so heartbreaking for me to hear, because that says that the only reason why you exercised and ate healthy was to lose weight. But there's a lot of other reasons. There's so much more to health than losing weight. You might not lose weight from exercising or eating well, but it could be helping your blood pressure. It could be lowering your blood sugar. And both of those things lead to reduced likelihood of stroke and, micro and macrovascular effects of diabetes, lower chances of heart attack. So exercise and eating well can lead to disease prevention, stronger bones, better mobility, stronger muscles. All of that stuff can happen without losing weight, believe it or not. Sometimes, when we do exercise and eat well, we might lose a little bit of weight. But for some people, they often see that plateau and then they just go back to the way things were because they think that it's all or nothing, but it's not. So we have to have realistic expectations for ourselves as well. So, focusing on the blood pressure, the doctor's visits, the labs, those are really good metrics to go by. Another thing I hear a lot is there are so many changes I need to make, I just feel too overwhelmed. Well, the good news is that you don't have to be perfect. If we are striving for perfection, if our expectations are to be perfect, of course you're going to get burnt out and you're going to feel discouraged and you're not going to feel motivated. So how can we just try to chip away at healthy behaviors and say, I want to, make really small goals and work on them over time? So I oftentimes talk to my patients about this like 80-20 rule or idea. So in the day, 80% of the time, let's try to eat nourishing foods. So maybe you have your oatmeal for breakfast with your fruit and your yogurt. And then for lunch, you've got a sandwich with meat and cheese and maybe a side of carrots. And then for dinner, say you want pizza. And maybe you feel like pizza is not that nourishing, but honestly, it could be part of a balanced diet for sure. And then maybe say you want ice cream or you want a little dessert. 80% of that day, you were eating really balanced meals. So why not enjoy something that feels less nutrient dense? So it's all about the general trend. It's not about being perfect. Because if we strive for perfection, often that's where things start going awry and we start to feel really discouraged. And then we just kind of want to give up. But we don't want people to give up healthy habits. We want you to feel encouraged, and we want this to become a habit. Okay, so a lot of times I tell my patients to not think about eating healthy and healthy lifestyle as a diet, because the diet mentality can kind of create this scarcity mindset, which actually increases cravings and food obsession. we want to have a really neutral and peaceful mindset around food because it helps us make these types of wise choices, these types of positive outcomes. Oftentimes when you go on a diet, we are thinking constantly of the things that we can't eat. When we are on a diet, we feel guilty. We feel kind of bummed that we can't eat the things we love. I always hear people saying, oh, I'm trying to cut out on bread. I'm trying to cut back on pizza. I'm trying to cut back on all these things that I love. That doesn't feel good. Oftentimes we are fearful. So just going by this loop up here in green, we're fearful of, gaining weight, or we're fearful of our health declining. This creates anxiety. So we have a lot of anxiety around food and eating junk food, and, we're worried. And then sometimes that causes poor choices. We are just in a super anxious state. And then that causes negative outcomes. So, yeah, we want to think about how a scarcity mindset, can actually negatively impact us. It can cause us to become really possessive of what we eat, and we might experience signs of anxiety. Versus this abundance mindset, it's an attitude of optimism that concludes that there is enough of everything to go around. So, yeah, oftentimes a scarcity mindset, if we say I can't eat pizza, the floodgates might break open one day and we'll be like, that's it, I need to eat my pizza. So oftentimes I really recommend that 80-20 rule, because we need to be able to allow ourselves these foods that we love so much, because it's all about moderation. It's not going to hurt us if we eat them once a week. So we have to figure out how to have that abundance mindset, because then that's going to prevent that anxiety, and a lot of negativity stems from that. So this is another cycle that kind of reminds me of the one that we were just looking at, the scarcity mindset. So dieting, like we said, they can be really strict. We crave what we tell ourselves that we can't have. So here's the cycle I was kind of alluding to, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have been in this cycle before. I have, many of us have been in the cycle before. I know a lot of people that have. So it usually starts with, I want to start a diet because the doctor said to, someone said to. Then we restrict, we follow all these rules. We have actually this deprivation. So this is where the scarcity mindset sets in. We have increased hunger, increased cravings. And then something happens, like I said before, the floodgates will just burst open. We go to a Christmas party or something, and we just eat a bunch of the stuff that we told ourselves we shouldn't be eating. And because of that, because it was so restrictive before, the second that floodgate opens, it's all or nothing. So yeah, we were at nothing and now we're at all. So there's no middle ground, there's no gray area, there's no in between. We're just constantly shifting back and forth between like binge eating and trying to be good. That's really takes a toll on us, and we feel guilty, we feel shameful, we feel out of control, we don't trust ourselves. And then those feelings cause us to start the diet again and again and again, and then we are constantly in this cycle. So I try to challenge my patients to say, how can we break this cycle somehow? And usually it starts with, maybe we shouldn't start a diet. Maybe we shouldn't follow such strict food rules. Maybe we should just kind of focus on health as this much greater thing than just really a controlling thing. So let's talk about that. So the power of permission and the abundance mindset. When you know whatever food you want will be available, it loses power over you. So then we get to be the ones that decide. We get to be, in the driver's seat of our lives. And a lot of people say, oh, well, if I was in the driver's seat, I would just eat chips all day, eat ice cream all day. Well, sometimes that does happen for a day or two, but then we get tired of it and we start to eat intuitively. So it's kind of a process, but there is a way to kind of break that cycle, because we are truly born with the natural ability to regulate our hunger and our fullness. If you've been around babies, you know how they work. You know, they cry when they're hungry, and then they stop crying when they're full, unless they're colicky or something like that, which is another thing. But babies are really good at regulating their hunger and fullness. As we get older, things disrupt our intuition. So there's a lot of food, like, you know, at the market, at the supermarket, that is engineered to be really crave worthy. Marketing, sometimes it kind of takes advantage of us. Like at the store, you know, they always put the sugary cereals at the kids' eye level. So a lot of marketing tactics from these companies can sometimes disrupt our intuition. A one size fits all approach to diets forces us to go against our intuition. Diets are meant to be individualized, not one size fits all. So there's a lot of things in society that have messed with our intuition. So one of my tips would be to notice and reframe. So if you ever have any of these thoughts, for example, when you pass the chips at the grocery store and you immediately think something like, I'm not allowed to get those, they're bad. How can we invite a gentle reframing of that thought to have a more abundance mindset? Because the I'm not allowed to get those, they're bad is definitely scarcity mindset. So I would say, maybe say something like, well, if I want this food, I'm allowed to get it. Fun foods can be a part of a balanced diet. I can get chips and carrots. You don't have to choose one or the other. It's not all or nothing. Oftentimes, I have chips on the side of a lunch a lot. I like chips. They're very good and they can be part of a healthy diet. Maybe you have a sandwich on multigrain bread with turkey and cheese and chips and carrots on the side. That's awesome. Maybe you want to have chips once a week, like with your, I don't know, with your lunch or something like that. How can we make this work? How can we have both? And this is a client quote. I think positively shaping my mindset around how I'm nourishing my body, whether that's related to the food I'm eating or the language I'm using when I'm talking to myself, has been my greatest win. So we oftentimes forget about, you know, how we are nourishing our body in a positive way. A lot of negativity can creep in with diets, strict diets. Okay. So another thought here, stress affects our relationship with food as well. So how I bet so many of you guys have reported that your health is a source of stress in your life. I hear this at least every day. I ask my patients, what stresses you out? And a lot of times it's my health problems. Like it's stressful to manage my diabetes, or it's stressful to remember my medications. It's stressful that I have to go to the doctor's office so often. I'm afraid of my health declining. So these are totally real stressors, and we have to learn how to cope with our stress and to manage this, because if we don't, stress does affect our digestion in many ways. So for example, the gut-brain axis, basically, there's a huge nerve ending that runs from our brain to our stomach. It runs down our spine. That's called the gut-brain axis. It relates to feelings of anxiety and guilt, and it affects our ability to digest. Another thing too, if we're constantly stressed about health, if we're worried about our diet, if we're worried about what we're eating, it actually increases the stress hormone cortisol, and that favors weight retention. So sometimes when we're so stressed about dieting, we actually are not really doing ourselves any favors. It's kind of working against us. And then of course, how many of us stress eat? I do. I have definitely been subject to that for sure. When I'm stressed, sometimes eating just feels better. So these are a few ways that worrying about our health actually negatively affects our health. And you can just see this is some of the stuff that's happening. The brain processes our stress. Cortisol and adrenaline are some of those stress hormones. And then our heart races, our breath quickens, your muscles get ready for action. So a lot of these things can cause high blood pressure, high blood sugar, heart rate speeding up, slow digestion. So finding a way to manage stress in our life is a really important part of our health. So this is just a little bit of a story. I'll read it out loud. So basically, you have two friends. say that you have a friend that feels really good about eating. They don't follow a diet. They're just kind of neutral. They don't really worry about dieting or weight or anything. But then maybe there's another friend that feels super guilty and they feel like worried about their diet. So two friends, and they're both eating bagels. Your one friend does not have any food rules, so they're able to fully enjoy the bagel, feeling totally calm, no guilt. Um, and then the other friend is in a state of guilt that triggers physiological stress response, activating the sympathetic nervous system. So your fight or flight. That leads to worsened digestion, slowed metabolism. Additionally, that cortisol, that stress hormone, is linked to increased weight retention. So the person that's nervous about eating the bagel because they're worried that they're breaking their diet is actually not going to digest that very well. And their metabolism might even slow. Being in a calm state of mind while eating, so allowing yourself to just have this bagel. Hey, I like bagels a lot. I'm going to eat this. I'm going to really enjoy it. Being in a calm state activates your calm side of your nervous system, your rest and digest. So you're in the optimal state for digestion, increases your metabolism, increases your sensitivity to your intuition. So that's just a little example of how our mindset totally dictates how we digest our food, and that affects our metabolism. So that's just a really interesting way that fear and stress about diet can affect us. Oops. Okay. So some more tips that I recommend to my patients. Positive change stems from self-compassion, not self-bullying. So saying things like, oh, I'm so mad at myself. I broke my rule, or I ate so badly today, or oh, I gained weight. I'm such a jerk. That those types of things that we say to ourselves, would you ever say that to your child or someone that you love? Probably not. So we know that positive change does stem from self-compassion and compassion to others as well. So how come it's so hard for us to talk to ourselves that way? So things like expressing acceptance and love towards yourself, extending your awareness to people around you. Those are all different ways to have self-compassion. Being mindful, using your breath to be aware of what's going on without judgment. We are very quick to judge ourselves, and that can be a really big problem. We have to give ourselves more credit. The world is tough. We all have, our own challenges, and we don't need to be our own worst enemy. Focus on what this is like my all-time favorite tip. Focus on what food you can add to enhance your health instead of what you have to stop eating. Instead of the mindset, ugh, I have to have a salad for dinner while everybody's eating pizza, or I have to have a salad while everybody here is ordering burgers. Why not order a burger, order some pizza, and a salad? The burger is not going to take away from the benefits that you're getting from those green veggies. That is why we eat vegetables and fruits, because they have all of these benefits to your amazing immune system. We don't eat salads to lose weight. We eat salads because green vegetables protect our stomach. They contribute to healthy bones because of all the minerals they have in them. They enhance our eyes and our vision. They enhance our immune system so we don't get as sick, especially coming up with cold season in the next few months. And they have antioxidants that can even fight cancer. Those are the reasons why we order a salad. Those are the reasons why we order broccoli, because it's like medicine, not because of this strict rule. So down here, I love this visual. It shows us that there's a lot of different, like all the colors in these foods are actually antioxidants. So they have a reason. They have a really important purpose. It's not just about weight loss. So my next tip for exercise and movement is, instead of focusing on shrinking your body, focus on strengthening your body through movement. A lot of my patients say, I want to keep up with my grandkids. Absolutely. Mobility, balance, being able to go out and walk outside, walk and keep up with the family. That is so important. And you don't have to shrink your body to get strong. There's a lot of really strong people out there that are in larger bodies. So you can be strong at any size. So these are some really good tips that I like. All right. Health at every size. Have you guys ever heard of this? What is it? Basically, health at every size just means that health is a product of our behaviors, not necessarily our weight. And this might be conflicting with what you hear at the doctors. Oftentimes, our doctors are concerned about our weight. But I see a lot of patients that maybe their body mass index is a little higher. It's in like the 30s or something like that, but they have all these healthy behaviors. They exercise 5 days a week. They eat 3 or 4 servings of vegetables and fruits per day. They go to, they talk about their stressors with their spouse, and they have healthy friendships and family relationships. Those are more important than our weight. So I always just tell my patients, remember, guys, weight is not a behavior. But what behaviors, like, because weight is often determined more by like our genetics, and there's other things that are outside of our control that contribute to our weight. Body diversity is a fact of life. You don't really have to be skinny or thin to be healthy. And blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, muscle tone, those are way more important than that number on the scale. And they can all improve without losing a significant amount of weight. Research shows that even just a 5% amount of weight loss, which is like could be 10 pounds, that is enough to improve your heart health and so much. So it's really not all about the weight loss. You don't have to be a 22 BMI. You can be healthy in a larger body as well. So I like to ask, we'll be ending on this slide, I think. Oop, one more slide. What health behaviors can I decide to do tomorrow? Because lose 10 pounds, it's not a behavior that we can do tomorrow. So what can I do tomorrow? Ask yourself that. Here's some examples. I can go for a walk. Even if all I can handle right now is 10 minutes, I can do it. And I can decide to do that the next day too, and the next day too. And guess what? That's going to lead to a stronger body. I can make sure I eat 3 servings of fresh fruit or vegetables tomorrow. So if that could be, I have a banana with breakfast. I have carrots and ranch at lunch. And then at dinner, maybe I make frozen broccoli and I put some shredded cheese on it. Perfect. That's awesome. That's a yellow, an orange, and a green fruit / vegetable. So you're getting lots of antioxidants. I can check my blood pressure so my doctors can keep a close eye on me. I can put my phone on the dresser so I can sleep without distractions tonight and feel well rested. So many actions that we can start doing tomorrow. Lose 10 pounds is not something that we can just do tomorrow. These are just some other great ways to measure your health. I know so many people want to lose weight, and that's totally fine. But can we put it on the back burner so we can focus on those healthy behaviors that we can start tomorrow? So I love these little trackers. Instead of, tracking daily weights, we could say, how can I track my daily water intake, my daily movement? Did I eat 2 veggies today? Did I snack on a fruit? Did I eat something with fiber in it? And if you ate fruits and veggies, then yes, you did. Did I try to make sleep a priority last night? And then something like this, a nice little card where we can say, I slept for 8 hours this Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I did some exercise. Because there's so much more than that number on this scale. All of these different factors here contribute to our health. Physical health, what like weight and blood pressure, that's just one little part. Do we have enough money to like have a healthy life? Sometimes that's a huge problem for a lot of retirees who are on a fixed income. Do I have positive relationships? If we're in a toxic relationship, that's not going to be good for our physical health. Do I love my job? Like, can I do things throughout the day? Do I live in an environment that's healthy with the air that I breathe? These are all important. It's not always about diet and exercise. All of these are important factors. So the point of this webinar today is to just kind of help you guys open up the view a little bit to see the bigger picture of health. We can get such tunnel vision into what we eat and controlling our diet, but it's really about that holistic view. So maybe at the healthy hour next week, if you're interested, it's going to be on Tuesday. We can talk about these things again. So if you're interested, please come. I'll look up the date and just ensure, but I'll be hosting it, and I would be happy to send you guys some of these checklists and just different ways to track your health. Okay, so I believe that was my last slide. Cool. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let's see if there's any questions. Okay, so please feel free to start asking some questions. If you'd like me to go back to another slide to relook at it, that's no problem. Let's see. All right, so we will just hang out here and see if you guys have any questions. Thanks for those of you who are commenting. I will share my screen again in just a second. I want to just make sure that I'm getting the time right for the healthy hour next week. Okay, yep, Tuesday at 12 will be our support group, and once again at 7. So yep, that would be October 29th. So we'll have our healthy hour then, and we can talk a lot more about this. Okay, so we do have a great question. Most doctors are still using BMI, and why is that? Great question. I think it's probably just because it's been that way for a really long time. And a lot of things in our medical system have been geared around BMI. So if any of you have ever gotten that diagnosis of obesity on your chart, that's based off the BMI. We base a lot of different things, like insurance bases coverage for certain medications off of BMI. Like it's just become so ingrained in our dietary and our medical profession. And so yeah, it's really tough though, because for example, I don't know if any of you guys watch the Olympics, but there's a lot of Olympians that have been talking about how their BMI puts them in the obesity range, because BMI doesn't factor in muscle mass at all. It just goes by weight and height. So if you have a person that's naturally really tall or big boned or muscular, those people are not going to be there. It's kind of skewed. So basically the BMI, it's good to understand that it's not the end all be all. And we have to understand that as, people and medical providers and clinicians. But it is still kind of used, and it'll be a big change to move away from that. Definitely there are places that are moving away from it and using things like those trackers that I showed in my presentation. Like there are places that are using these types of things for kids, and because BMI for kids can be tough, it can really cause some, shame, and poor little kids can feel bad about themselves based on BMI. So yeah, lots of changes are happening, but I would just say, to answer your question, yeah, that is why they're still using it now. That's a great question. I usually tell my patients to take it with a grain of salt. When you see that on your chart, when you see your BMI, do not be discouraged. You can still be healthy with a high BMI. That's what I say. It's just a number, just like it's totally okay. Great question. We also have a question about could slides by email as a reminder. I think I can totally do that. I will just ask Cecilia. I'm pretty sure we can do that though. And with the cost of fruits and veggies, is canned food a good option? Yes, canned food is a great option. What I recommend, if you're buying canned vegetables or canned fruit, pour them in a strainer, rinse them with water, and then eat them. And the reason why is because canned fruit and vegetables are preserved with either salt or sugar. We know that too much salt can affect our blood pressure, can increase our risk of heart attack and stroke. We know that too much sugar can increase our risk of diabetes and other metabolic dysfunction. So but we can really cut that amount of salt and sugar in half if we just give it a good rinse. If you can afford frozen fruit or vegetables, that is maybe a tier up because you don't have to worry about the salt and the sugar added. So that would be my recommendation. But canned vegetables are absolutely can be part of a healthy diet. Just make sure you rinse them. Things like tomatoes, canned tomatoes, you don't have to rinse. Like crushed tomatoes if you're making like tomato soup or sauce. Um, and like baked beans, be mindful of baked beans. Usually they have like the pork and beans have like sugar and stuff in them. But if you just buy plain black beans, plain pinto beans, kidney beans, same thing, just rinse and drain, and you're good to go. Those are really great for our health. Beans are super high in fiber. Awesome. And I love this topic, and I think maybe down the road we might even do a food psychology 102, because I just think there's a lot to discuss. Oops. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right, we've got 15 more minutes. So if anyone has any more questions, they are all anonymous. I would be happy to answer them. All right. Anybody have any comments? Okay, so we have another question. What other foods are a good source of fiber? So fiber is something that only comes from plants. So that helps us narrow it down. So things like eggs, meat, milk, yogurt, those come from animals. So they really don't have any fiber. They have a lot of protein, which is awesome and super important, but not fiber. So think about plants. The best sources of fiber that I can think of are seeds. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of chia seeds or flax seeds, ground flax. Those are really, really great sources of fiber. Oftentimes, we can add those very easily into oatmeal, cold cereal, smoothies. Some people, you can really put them on anything. Yogurt, so you can add your fiber to your animal protein foods. Another really high source of fiber are beans, and beans are unique because they also have protein. Um, Beans are really fibrous, all types. So black beans, pinto beans, kidney beans, black-eyed peas, all these different types, lentils. They have so much fiber in them, and they help lower cholesterol. Fiber helps, helps with digestion. And you don't have to eat a lot because I know beans can be hard on some people's digestive systems, but those are great for us. And you can cook them from scratch, from dried beans. You can cook them from fresh beans, or you can also get them canned. Yes, prunes are a really good source of fiber. Dried fruit, all fruit. So prunes are just a type of fruit. All fruit is a great source of fiber. Peaches, bananas are huge. Grapes, berries, oranges, watermelon, melon, any type of fruit has fiber. And the same goes for vegetables. All vegetables have fiber too. So even like your canned vegetables, your frozen fruits and vegetables, your dried fruits and vegetables, they do. Nuts have fiber. So I always think, when I think of fiber, I think of fruits, veggies, nuts, beans, seeds. And obviously grains too. So, thinking of grains, a lot of people think of cereal and bread, pasta. Those have been processed from the whole grain. So the closer you get to the whole grain, the more fiber there is. So think of like uh, quinoa, wild rice, more whole grain, wheat germ, wheat berries, those types of things. Those are like the grains that bread and pasta and all that comes from. So the closer you get to the original crop, the more fiber it has. Obviously, eating an apple, you're eating something very close to the original crop. You could just pull it from a tree. So that's a good thing to think of. I would say roasted nuts are great, and if you can get them without salt or lightly salted, that will help, because too much salt contributes to it'll contribute to our high blood pressure and things like that. But roasted nuts I always tell people, if you can find unsalted roasted nuts, those are the best, because just roasting the nuts tastes so much better. Like for example, I really like cashew nuts, and if you can buy them roasted and unsalted, I get them at Costco. They taste so good. But I don't really like raw cashews. They taste a little different. And the same goes for almonds. I don't really like raw almonds. And you can always roast them yourself in your oven, and I can send you guys a little recipe. We have a question: can you eat too much nuts, like pecans, walnuts, peanuts, almonds? You can eat too much of anything. That's my thought. So absolutely. I think like eating too much nuts, I guess it would be sure, you can eat too much of anything and get sick. I've done that before on Thanksgiving, and that happens. But I think, are you wondering like if you can eat too much and get sick or gain weight? I would think that any food can really be taken to a little bit to the max. So we want to really pay attention to our fullness, our stomach sensations, and ask ourselves like, how full am I on these? And just kind of tuning into our body's cues. Such good questions, you guys. I hope I'm answering them okay. If you have follow-up questions. We have a question. What exactly is diabetic rice? I actually do not know what that is, so I'm gonna look it up on my phone. Diabetic rice. Let's see. Hmm. Okay. So what I'm thinking, sometimes parboiled rice is lower in carbs, or like basically if you guys have ever made certain types of rice, sometimes if you make basmati rice or jasmine rice, they at the directions ask you to soak it in water, or sushi rice or something, soak it in water. You can see the water gets cloudy. That's because of the starch is coming off of the rice. If you're treating rice to remove the starch, that is going to be less carbs. That's going to affect your blood sugar a little less because we're removing some of the starch before we cook it. So they do say that parboiled rice, like Uncle Ben's parboiled rice, or soaking your rice and soaking it in water until the water runs clear. They say that those methods can sometimes help rice be lower in carbs, or a little bit lower on our blood sugar. It can affect it a little less. I'm answering your questions. Um, so prunes, yeah, I thought that was a good question. A lot of times prunes are like the food, prunes and dried figs. Um, you don't want to go crazy eating those though, because they're, usually like 3 prunes is a serving. So if you're sitting there eating a bunch of prunes, you might end up eating like a bunch of servings. Um, Somebody asked, is gluten-free flour good for baking? Gluten-free flour is good for baking if you have celiac disease or non-gluten, non-celiac gluten intolerance. If you don't have those things, just use regular flour because it's really no different, and it's not going to help. Like gluten-free flour is still, it has about the same amount of carbs, it has the same amount of starch, so there's really no health benefit of using gluten-free flour unless you have one of those conditions like celiac disease or non-celiac gluten sensitivity. So don't go, and it's also usually more expensive, so you might as well just go ahead and use regular flour. Wheat is really high in protein. So if you're going to be baking, go ahead and just use the regular stuff if you can. Good questions. So remember, back to the fiber, all fruits and vegetables, all nuts, all seeds, all beans, and whole grains. Those are high fiber foods. Some of them are higher than others. Yeah. And a lot of times, yeah, we think about dried fruit, but fresh fruit is also high in fiber, and fresh fruit might even be better because it has water in it and it's naturally portion controlled. Guys, it was such a pleasure to answer these questions and present this to you. Um, All right. If you guys have specific questions too, my email, I should have written my email in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'll put my email right here. NicoleC.RPMLogix@gmail.com. So if you got questions and you want to ask me anything else, please feel free to email me, or you can, ask your dietitian. If you don't have a dietitian with RPM and you would like one, by all means, go ahead and reach out because we can get you set up. We also have another good question. What type of milk is good with coffee? That's really up to you. It really depends on what you want. Like, I think regular cow's milk is totally fine. Again, if that's what you like. Um, as long as you're not lactose intolerant, I think that regular cow's milk is actually one of our best options because it's natural, it's very natural, and also it has protein in it. So, yeah, it's like pretty healthy and half and half, even if you like your coffee light and creamy, plain old half and half. It's very low in carbs and it's low. Yeah, so it's actually, I think half and half is probably the best thing that you can put in your coffee. Some people worry about the fat, but if you think about how much you're putting in, it's a very small amount. And we know that fat is actually not as bad for us as we once thought it was. Sugar is the one that can kind of creep in and cause all sorts of metabolic dysfunction. So I would say I recommend people go with half and half usually. If you're lactose intolerant, then you could find like soy milk or like the oat milk creamers can be good. But most people can tolerate dairy. So it's really, yeah, that's a good question. I actually have half and half in my coffee right now. I just drink regular coffee with half and half. I don't put sugar in it. I just love the taste of coffee, but I don't really like black coffee. So, all right, guys, it is 1 o'clock. Actually, my computer is a little fast, so is half and half okay for high cholesterol? Yes. If you have high cholesterol, that is a good question. If you have high cholesterol, it's much more important that you exercise and eat things like chia seeds, flax seeds, oatmeal, those high fiber foods, bananas. And like we're not drinking a cup of half and half a day. If you're concerned, I would say use a teaspoon to measure out 2 teaspoons or 1 teaspoon into your coffee. And most of us should be probably just drinking like 1 or 2 coffees a day. So that is totally not excessive. And if you are super worried about it and your cholesterol is stubborn and your doctor's insisting, you could go ahead and do soy milk or like a barista oat milk without sweetener. Yeah, so for cholesterol, the most important thing to do is stay active and eat. I would say eat like a serving of chia seeds or flax seeds or oatmeal at least once a day, because those foods actually scavenge the cholesterol out of your blood and lower your cholesterol. So yes, I always think about what can we add to help our cholesterol, to help our diabetes. Cool. All right, guys, that's about it. It's 1 o'clock. So thank you so much for coming. It was really nice to answer your questions and to present a topic that I'm so passionate about. Nutrition is a positive thing. It's so good. It doesn't ever have to feel stressful or scary. So please email me if you have questions. And I will be doing healthy hour at this time next week. So please come if you have more questions. We can talk about it again. All right, everybody. Have a great day, and I will talk to you next week. Oops. How do I get out of here? End. Okay. All right. Bye, guys.